Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing.
Okay, yeah, I know. Okay, all right.
Let's keep the show on the road.
Good morning. On behalf of Mayor Pro Tem Whitehead, City Commission, Manager Fuentes, and staff, welcome to the business meeting of the City Commission of the City of Truth and Consequences. It is now 9:02 on July 11th. Madam Clerk, can we have roll call, please?
Honorable Steve Green.
Here.
Honorable Sandra Whitehead. Here. Honorable Kathy Clark is absent. Honorable Ralph Heschler.
Here.
Honorable Paul Baca.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and please let the minutes show that Commissioner Clark did call me and let me know that unfortunately she is out of cell service and will not be phoning in today. The next item on our agenda is number 2, silent meditation. Please join me in 15 seconds of silent meditation. Thank you. The next item is Pledge of Allegiance. Mayor Pro Tem, could you lead us in that, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item is approval of the agenda. I will stand for a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the agenda for July 11, 2018 as submitted.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Whitehead, a second by Commissioner Heschler. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. The next item is number C, comments from the public. The 3-minute rule applies. If you have something you want to become a permanent part of the record of this meeting, please put it in the black box and state your name for the record, please. I think we just want to set the timer, Ms. Oshko.
No, it's not on. There it is.
Testing, okay.
Oh, yeah.
My name is Randy Ashbaugh, 1023 Poplar Street, Piercy, New Mexico, 87901. Got a couple items here I want to present. They say I submitted to you some pictures, which is an advertisement put into the Herald newspaper by the concerned citizens, and I'm the chairman agent. You have a picture of it, of all the water leaks. They say a picture speaks 1,000 words. This picture speaks of absolutely no planning and incompetence. The city water system is a shambles. The sewer system is in shambles. The city streets are a disgrace, along with many of our other infrastructures, our pool and golf course. You have a city, you have 100 city employees and cannot even sweep the streets. Why were there 5 to 7 city workers cleaning a lot up on Main Street across from the post office, the old Buckhorn building, a couple of weeks ago, working up there, and you had 3 or 4 down putting in curb by the city. Meanwhile, there was 20+ water leaks going all over town, draining tens of thousands of gallons a day out of the water tanks. How did the city manager make a $300,000 mistake in the sewer plant bid for the addition? How could that happen? And we all know where the money came from to replace it. Why did it take over a year to straighten out the utility billing system? I can understand a few days or a week, 2 weeks, 10 days. Why is the city not repairing the too many to count water leaks? I see they made a little bit of headway after a bunch of head knocking around here. Why haven't we already installed new pumps for the sewer system that should have been replaced and planned years ago? Half or more of the pumps have shut down and caused serious problems, like the sewer running down the streets and at the Denny's several times. I go there for tea. It boils down to no planning and incompetence. I have called on several state agencies to investigate the water and sewage systems. There are big problems. You know it, and I know it too. I contacted the financial agency to investigate the expenditures of these departments and the city as a whole, especially the line items, and how the employment is moved around in the city to do other things. Mr. Green, you need to resign. Mr. Fuentes, you are no manager. You need to resign. I want these pictures and statement in the minutes of this meeting. In its enclosure, Herald newspaper ad, July the 11th, volume 90, number 1, page A7. I had another paper I wanted to bring up, but I'm out of time about the spaceport. I'll bring that up next meeting.
Mr. Fenn.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ron Fenn, Truth or Consequences. Mr. Green, as you are not a conqueror of nations, you do not get the opportunity to rewrite history. And yet, I see in this ridiculous article in the Herald that you have changed the reason for the planning and zoning to not exist to a few residents or a few citizens who have upset the planning and zoning board and caused them to leave. You, Mr. Green, and the commission at that time were responsible for the demise of the planning and zoning board when you decided to vacate their decision on the signage for Bobby Middleton and the Los Arcos restaurant, and allowed them to put in an illegal billboard to replace one that had fallen down. It was illegal for several reasons, and you ignored every reason that the city, that the planning and zoning had done meticulous work trying to foster the proper respect for our laws. You ignore the law. You don't make the law. And yet you've cowed the community into the apathy that you so eloquently claim is responsible for there being no planning and zoning board. But then why would any decent, honest person want to serve on a board that you ignore for political reasons? The signage in this city is one of the things that really detracts from its appearance, detracts from its appearance and attractiveness to other people, and is absolutely clear that it shows no respect by this commission for the law that they make for others to follow. You do, in Randy's words, need to resign. And before doing that, of course, you fire this man because he is absolutely no manager and has done more damage to this community than any 10 people that I know of. You all have a good day.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Tom Smith. I live at 609 Kruger Street in Tier C. We received a letter at the beginning of the year stating that they were going to finally pave Kruger Street from 3rd to 8th Street, and they marked out the road and everything looked like it was going to go through. And the boys started, and it was a city project. It wasn't contracted out, and they went to 6th Street. They went right to 6th Street and stopped, and we didn't hear anything. So I went down and talked to Don. I've known Don for a long time, and Don says, "Well, we ran out of money." And I said, "Don, he said, well, hasn't it improved anything?" I said, "No, it's made it worse, because now the people coming up the hill are doing 40 instead of 20 on the street, and it hits that hill, and it creates more dust and problems for us on that street." He said, "Well, maybe we'll look at next year's budget to see if there's any money in there. In the meantime, maybe I could get the state some chip seal, and we could put on that. I said anything to keep the dust down would be helpful. So I would like to have some response to that in writing or something, because I just believe that somebody puts out a letter, says this is what they're going to do, and then can't do that, would at least send another letter and say, okay, this is what the problem is. Of course, Don's gone now, and I don't know the new guy or if you've hired anybody yet or anything like that. And my other question is, Mr. Bach, I know you've been pushing for the off-road vehicles use in the city. Has that, I'd like to know whether that has been approved. I heard today was the day it was going to be approved, but anyway, I'll sit down and let you answer those questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Diane Lombardo, TOC. I can't be really reporting on the shelter because I haven't been there lately. However, I do hear from people who have been there. The article in the Herald, please do not be misled. We have, according to Carlos, 28 animals in a shelter that was built to house 14. That's dogs. And the cats, again, the same thing. I understand that they don't want to be killing any animals. However, stressing them out with overcrowding conditions is not good. They're going to end up with very unadaptable sick animals. Hopefully with the new chief, whom I've already talked to, and we'll get together and hopefully solve this problem. There are strict rules to becoming rated as a non-kill shelter, and this shelter is not doing it correctly. I would like to suggest to the chief that he send his people to the Animal Humane Conference. I suggested this last year for Sabrina Day, and I was ignored. 2 reasons for a conference: you learn new things from classes, you also learn from people, you also network with people who are doing the same things you do, you network with people who are doing rescue. It's very important to do that if you're going to go for a non-kill shelter. And we can't do that unless we reach outside. And I understand, yes, Santa Fe is taking some of our animals. They cannot take all of them. We need to reach out and have a strong network. We need to do that. We need to have shelter managers who know what they're doing, who are willing to network with people. Yes, Santa Fe will take them, but take some of our animals, but so will Animal Humane, but they have not reached out to Animal Humane. So we'll sometimes, Pets Alive in Albuquerque, but we haven't reached out to them. People in Colorado, but we haven't reached out to them. Breed rescues, we haven't reached out to them. They don't have time because they got too many animals, and they don't have the knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Ed Williams. I live in Williamsburg, 707 Carmen. I just want to say that I worked for 32 years in utilities, various aspects of them, and I think if the public believes that in the last 7 to 10 years that this problem with the water lines, sewer, whatever it may be, all of a sudden appeared, they're wrong. I started in '82. We had the same problems. But the problem isn't the commissioner or the mayor or the city manager. The problem are the citizens of the town themselves. Every time we came up with a game plan to get ahead, citizens revolted saying we can't afford it. And of course, commissioner says, well, okay. So if I would tell the citizenry, if they want to look at anybody about our infrastructure, they need to look at themselves and see if they're willing to put their money where their mouth is. Simple as that. Because that's what it's going to take. And it doesn't get any cheaper. Anybody that worked for the city in the past knows this. And I'm going to put it on the citizenry to step up. Bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Good morning, Stanley Rickert, 1705 Cary Street, Truth or Consequences. I invite everybody out there in Radio Land to come by and see the junkyard I have to live next to. Take a ride over there by Rodeo Road and the Rodeo Arena, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's horrendous. Anyway, back to Commissioner Baca. You made a statement last time I was here about which property. I don't know what you were thinking, but you've been here enough, you've heard me enough, you know where I live. You know where the problem is. The problem does not exist with Jerry Kabowski's property across the street from me. He has cleaned up a lot. He's 80-year-old veteran. I want to see what you can do when you're 80 years old. You don't stand a chance to put up with what he does. Anyway, I'm taking this to the next level. Like I told you, Juan Fuentes, Mr. City Manager, if I have to, I'm going to take it to court. And I am going to take it to court. I've got a lawyer working for me. I'm going to clean this place up. You got rid of one manager, or let's put it this way, one employee. Brother Robbie Travis, got rid of him because all he did was, wipe things up, and I don't think it was legal what he did. I can't prove it, but I guarantee you, in a court of law, we'll straighten this mess out. And I appreciate your time and your efforts. Mr. Green, this is a personal commission for me. I'm a city person. I belong to this city now. I own property here in this city, and when it comes down to being a personal commission, yes, I'm a person of this city, and the city is what runs this commission, or at least should run this commission. Back to the Planning and Zoning Committee, yeah, they got rid of they walked out on you. They weren't periodically displaced or left. And I like to think that, you could get somebody else in here if you'd offer them a position. I'm sure the people would love to have somebody take care of this planning and zoning and get things straightened out besides weeds and curbs and, other baloney that people talk about. The utilities are a problem, but yeah, they're downhill, and water runs downhill, but doggone it needs to be cleaned up. So anyway, I appreciate your time, and I hope that when things get done, we're going to, get things straightened out. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wheeler?
Good morning, Commissioners, Mayor Green, Manager Fuentes, Carol Wheeler, Corbett Street, Truth or Consequences. Just a little update on the off-leash dog park. There will be, unfortunately, I just looked at the next commission meeting. There will be a concert in town by Maria Muldaur on July 24th at the Civic Center, and tickets are available at the brewery and at the Sentinel, and that's for concert tickets. And we are also selling raffle tickets. There's a beautiful painting by a local artist, Mike Thompson, that's going to be raffled at the concert, and the promoters have indicated that a portion of the proceeds of that concert will be coming to the dog park. So that's a wonderful gesture on their part. And the second most important thing is I would like to thank your Parks and Recreation crew. Mr. OJ is just marvelous, and his guys have done a wonderful job at the dog park. And I know they suffered with getting things watered, and now we've got heavenly water, and we've got water, and everything's growing, and they're keeping up with it. So I really would like to thank them. One other item, as we are in the process of purchasing some items, we found a reasonably inexpensive shade shelter, which happened to be in place at the Skyline Canine Park in Albuquerque. So I reached out to Albuquerque's Parks and Rec, and they highly recommended them and said they would buy more. We need 3. We're going to be cautious and order 1 to see if it does work out. And then it's double work, but in the long run, I think it will save us some money if it doesn't work out. And we're ordering 2 more benches to be placed under the big tree. And we're also, I'm going to be sending authorities a request to do some pre-planning for a new service gate between the small dog park and the large dog park, so we can save that huge, big tree that's struggling to live. There's no way any large equipment can get into it to prune it back. So that's where we are. These hot days, I thought we would have very little usage, but we're still having lots of waste to empty out of the can, so that tells me people are using the dog park. And I just wanted everyone to know. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the commission? Yes, sir.
I'm Hal Preiser, 165 North Silver Street, apartment number 1. Now, the people have spoken. I have lived here all of my life, and the fact is, I've watched you guys destroy this city. Now, I know when I was a child, my grandfather put me on a machine that I drove it. I personally fixed Main Street and Broadway myself because I rode in that machine and I did it. But all of a sudden, you people got filthy rich. And now the time changed. I am seizing control. This deed says I own the whole state. That means legally I can arrest every one of you guys. But I choose not to. You will accept me as your king, and you will do what I tell you to do. That's a fact. From now on, these people want the streets fixed. We're going to fix the streets, but they have to be torn up to fix the infrastructure first. Now, you people have not done anything properly. I've got over 300 companies that want to come here, but only if I'm king. That'll create jobs. That's going to put money in the coffers to fix everything. And also, over in Ivory Coast, they grow cocoa. They bring $798 billion in a year. I know how to prepare our soil to grow cocoa. It takes 5 years from plant. But then, in 5 years, that plant is going to be worth trillions, which will bring trillions of dollars into this state. You people will accept me as your king, and you will do what I tell you. Sandra, I put a motion on the table that you accept me as your king, and you're going to second it. And everybody's going to say they're going to accept it. There will be no opposing, or I will arrest you. I will arrest your family, all of your bloodline, and I'll put you on a chain gang, and I'll force you to serve me. And I mean it. I'm not playing games anymore. I've sat back and I've watched you destroy this place. So Sandra, as I said, I put a motion on the table. You accept me as your king. You second it. Do you second it?
We do not make motions, and we do not second public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Preiser.
Well, then I'll be back next time, and you will.
Anyone else like to address the commission, please? Possibly about city business? Keep it on track. Hearing none, thank you very much for all your comments. We will move on to the next item, which is item D, response to public comments. Do any of the commissioners have any response for Manager Fuentes?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I do have a quick response, and just for the benefit of the public and those listening on the radio, the city is in litigation with Mr. Randy Ashbaugh and his company, so unfortunately we cannot address, or at least I will not address any of his concerns or issues that he raises, because we are in litigation. But I do want to just remind everybody that Mr. Ashbaugh is a member of the Public Utility Advisory Board, and he does have a forum where he can ask some of those questions and address because infrastructure is always a tough issue, not just in this community, but throughout, as Mr. Williams pointed out. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, concerns?
Well, and I'll go a step further. And I have advised the commission that you should not respond to these comments when we are in litigation. I mean, just, it's just a good idea. And there is a hearing coming up next Wednesday, the 25th, I believe, on that case. Also wanted to mention to Mr. Smith, where you were asking about the OHV ordinance. I actually have done a rough draft of it. It's being reviewed. There may be some changes made. I just met today our new police chief, and I'll be sending him a draft also for his review. So it may be coming up in front of the commission possibly at the next meeting. We'll see. But I'm not promising that, but that's where we're on track for trying to do that.
Thank you. I do have a question. I heard, Carol, we're going to have a city commission meeting the same night as the concert, and some of the proceeds are going to go to support the dog park. What time does the concert start?
It starts at 6.
All right, so I'm going to suggest, and Madam Clerk, if you could maybe poll the commission. We are set up for 6 o'clock, especially if the off-vehicle ordinance comes back on our agenda. There are going to be a lot of people who want to be heard on that, and I would hate like heck to take away potential attendance to the concert. So if you could possibly, if this is legal, to poll the commission again and see if we could have a much earlier start so we don't step on those toes. We're set for 6 o'clock right now, and I'm wondering if maybe we could, if you could poll the commission, and maybe we could do a 4 o'clock start or something, which would give people an opportunity to participate in the meeting and still go right next door to the concert. If you could do that, does that make sense to everybody?
4 o'clock?
Well, yeah, I mean, and maybe my fellow commissioners could email city clerk and tell Renee what time would work for you. I have no idea what's going to be on the agenda, but I certainly, since this dog park has been so long in coming and now it's here, we certainly want to support it. I don't want to take away their potential audience.
Okay, and the publication has to go out today anyway, so.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Any other comments? Hearing none, thank you. The next item is E, consent calendar. I will stand for a motion which consists of the consent calendar for approval of the City Commission regular minutes of June 13th, 2018, of the Recreation Advisory Board minutes of February/June 2018, and the accounts payable of June 2018.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent calendar as noted.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Whitehead. I need a second.
I'll second that.
By Commissioner Baca. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you. The next item is number F, ordinance, resolutions, and zoning. Discussion action, resolution number 01, 2018-2019, Open Meetings Act. Our presenter is our city clerk, Ms. Renee Canton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager. You have before you the Open Meetings Act. We already discussed it after the last election at the organizational meeting. I have no changes, but it's been our practice to have it as the first resolution every year. And this being the first meeting in July, it's our first resolution of the year. I did have one question about, and I'll refer your attention to Section B, so it would be 3B under special meetings. Mayor Pro Tem brought to our attention a question about the notice that specifies the business to be conducted shall be broadcasted over the radio or in the alternative posted in the following places, which are those 6 places. So I just wanted to clarify that that's either or. There's not a requirement that it has to be published at every time on the radio, even though they're very good about doing that for us. And this is only under the requirement for special meetings. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions from the commission? Hearing none, I will stand for a motion for approval of this resolution.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 2018/2019 Open Meetings Act resolution as presented by Renee Canton, our city clerk.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Whitehead and a second by
I'll second that.
Commissioner Baca. Any further discussion? Hearing none, can we have roll call, please?
Honorable Steve Green?
Yes.
Honorable Sandra Whitehead?
Aye.
Honorable Ralph Hitchler?
Yes.
Honorable Kathy Clark is absent. Honorable Paul Baca?
Aye. Carries unanimously. Thank you. The next item is under new business, discussion, action, appointment of members to the Recreation Advisory Board. Ms. Canton will be our presenter.
Commissioners, do you mind if I present from here?
Not at all.
So we can get the minutes portion in there. The Recreational Advisory Board will have 2 members expiring, and they took it to their board. And it's been published since January 26th. And their July 2nd meeting, they accepted the resignation also, in addition to the vacancies for Greg Demore, the chair, and Christy Conklin. They also accepted the resignation of Isabel Scheel, who has not been attending, and they made the recommendation to also appoint Carol Wheeler to fill her position for a full 2-year term. So with that, their recommendation is to reappoint Greg Demore and Christy Conklin, and to appoint Carol Wheeler to serve in the vacancy. The other positions will not expire until 2019.
Right. When I heard 2 members expiring, maybe we should use their terms are expiring. Volunteers are hard to come by in the first place. Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Any ideas, concerns? We'll follow the recommendation, and I will stand for a motion, please.
Mayor Green, I'd like to move that we accept the reappointment of Greg Demore and Christy Conklin to the Recreation Advisory Board, and welcome newcomer Carol Wheeler as a 2-year member of the Recreation Advisory Board, as presented by Renee Canton, our clerk.
I have a motion by Commissioner Hessler and a second by
I second that motion.
Mayor Pro Tem Whitehead. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Carol, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And our thanks to Mr. Demore and to Christy Conklin. This is an important board. All boards are important, and we appreciate their volunteerism and their willingness to serve this community and their fellow citizens. The next item is number G, under 2, discussion, action, appointment of members to the Public Utility Advisory Board. Ms. Canton.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, the terms for 4 of the board members expired June 2018, which was George Seghetti, Chair, Jeff Dornbush, Vice Chair, Gil Avalara, and Ron Pecoric. The notice was published May 25th and has been posted outside the clerk's office since the 22nd and the website. We currently have 5 applications for consideration, which include George Seghetti, Jeff Dornbush, Gil Avalar, Ron Pecoric, and an additional for Edward Williams. Please note that these PUAB members also serve as the Impact Fee Board, and we did not take this to the PUAB meeting because it was all of the members, so we don't have a recommendation from them because the majority of the members are up for appointment. With that, I'll open it up for any questions. And the members, all except for one, Jeff Dornbush, who had a medical appointment he couldn't reschedule,
Okay.
I believe are here for any questions you have, except for George Seghetti is not here.
And did we hear from Gil? Gil's not
Gil.
here. No. Okay.
So we have Ron Pecoric and Ed Williams here if you have any
Okay.
questions you may want to.
What I would like to do, in all fairness, since we only have these 2 gentlemen here, is I'll just go by the way it's listed here. We'll speak with Ron first. Is just to have an opportunity for the commission just to talk to Ron and Mr. Williams. Ed, if you wouldn't mind just stepping out for a couple minutes, this way everyone will feel a certain comfort level here, and then we'll just call you back in. So, no, Ron, you're up. Yes. Sorry.
And I complained about this
Right. So I will talk louder. I apologize. First of all, it goes without saying, I never speak for the commission, but I think I feel comfortable in saying that we all appreciate the work and effort that goes in and the study that goes in to prepare yourself to be an active, viable member of an advisory board for this city. So thank you for your service. What I'd like to do is give an opportunity to my fellow commissioners. I have one or two questions I'd like to ask, but I don't want to take up all the oxygen in the room, so I'm going to put this on the commission first. Did anyone have any questions of Ron and his role as he sees it as a member of the advisory board?
I don't at this time.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Mr. McCormick, if you are selected to return to the FOB, what do you see happening with the FOB over the next year? What are your most pressing needs, and what are you going to be working for to try to achieve?
Well, it's really hard getting anything through to bring to you all as recommendations, but I guess the pressing thing right now is actually on the impact fee board, which I am a member. But I'm always looking to bring things to the board to have a discussion. And for example, I had a map of all the hydrants in town, and I feel that we have insufficient fire hydrants. And we had a discussion of sorts, and that went nowhere. I brought up, Tracy gave us a ad hoc run, and I pasted it all together, I put it up, and I've heard Mr. Green, our mayor, talk about the water issue coming up for voting on to increase the rates for our water. And he said we were 13th on the list. But there's other issues to look at other than being 13th on the list. When I retired from the company, we could get an ad hoc run, and that's what I refer to that. And you can have that ad hoc run requested any way you want it. So being 13th is not really the point, but we need to, when that comes up, we'll discuss that. I think I have really I was the second citizen to have solar, and I came to the commission and said, what's the rules, regulations, whatever on solar? And there is none. They said they recommended go talk to the Public Utility Advisory Board, which I had no idea that existed. So I went and talked to them, and I said, what's the rules, regulations, whatever you call it, for having renewable energy, solar? And they said, well, we don't have anything. Well, do you think we ought to have an ordinance? And that's why I got interested actually to get on the board, to help some issues. And it's, I have no control over anything. All I can do is have input, and I am not afraid to ask the hard questions. I am not afraid to talk about the elephant in the room. But going forward, I really don't know how do we fix our infrastructure. And all I hear is money, money, money. So maybe, I don't know, I have no solution for that at all. But somebody brings up an idea, we can discuss it. So, I think I have contributed to this community too. I came before you, the board, the city commission, and want to know why we didn't have credit card access at our utility office. And at the time, the city manager was Jaime Aguilera, and he said it was going to cost $600,000 to put that in. Well, that wasn't true, and it got put in. And now there's a fee to use your credit card, but I thought that might help with the red tag issue. People could pay their bill with a credit card. That happened. And, you know, there's other things that I have brought. We have another fire hydrant on North Riverside now, because I came and brought that issue up, that there was one a half a mile from my house. I mean, these are things that I have accomplished. I got the phase 3 of Riverside chip sealed, said they couldn't do it because the oil prices were too high. I came back, said the oil's at $40 a barrel, and Bar 2 said they put the stones down and the city paid for the oil. That got done. I have a voice, and I try to be as congenial as I can. I don't know. I'm done. If you have any other questions.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Baca?
I just have one question. How do you feel about rate increases? How do you feel about rate increases, where if the city, we understand the need. No one disputes that. And we're not quite sure with the new governor coming on board what the attitude is going to be from on high, Santa Fe, to help with major infrastructure projects that all communities are facing, especially the smaller rural ones that don't generate enough in-house revenue themselves to be the end-all and write the check for everything. So sometimes you have to look outside of grandfather writing you the check, and you have to try to help yourself. So we might, down the road, be looking and be required to increase our rates if we want to be a viable candidate for colonious funding, for example, from the Water Board. How would you address that? How do you feel about rate increases for specific usage of money for infrastructure?
I have commented about the sewer rate and the solid waste rate being increased 5% every year, and I have a problem with that. The Public Utility Advisory Board ought to be looking at that on some kind of basis, annually, maybe every 2 years, but to be in place every year for eternity at 5% increase, which compounds, by the way. And with the new one, the water rates coming up that we're going to talk about, I have some ideas because of ad hoc run and other communities doing something, which I don't have specifics right now, but that issue has not come up yet at our board. So, yes, I understand that we need increase, but I also heard that both the solid waste and the sewer department were in the black. So justifying increases, you have to, and where's the future? How far? And our community is not growing. So there's fewer of us, and that means more money each one has to pay out. And you've heard me talk about that at the commissioner meeting. So, but if you looked at my resume, I put on there a win-win for what we can, for the customer, because I believe I represent the utility and the customers, and to bring suggestions to the city commission to do what is best for everybody. And that means increasing, that's a possibility. But we need to look at and discuss it.
Thank you, Ron, I appreciate it. If you wouldn't mind just step out so we can have an opportunity just to talk to you.
Want me to sign in?
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah, please, thank you.
Sorry.
My wife says I talk too loud or too much, whatever the case might be. Ed, if you just want to...
Yes. I have a routine.
Yeah.
You have to reserve the seat. So we just want to have a little bit of a conversation with you, have you give us an opportunity to express your views and why you would like, I think, is this the second time you've applied for this? Okay. So I thank you for your perseverance. And so why do you want to be on the board? And I'm going to ask the same question of you, and I think you started to answer it, that I asked of Ron, but I'm going to let my other fellow commissioners go first.
Okay.
So if you want to just kind of introduce yourself, I don't know if Commissioner Bacher knows you, or maybe he does, a little bit about yourself and why you want to serve on this board and what you feel you bring to the table.
Well, my name's, as I stated before, Edward Williams. When I got in the Marine Corps, the city, I put an application for the city back in '82. They called me. Was here ever since. I spent 32 years and some months with the city in various aspects, but mostly utility. Safety coordinator for many years, assistant utility director 1 year, and then of course I ran electric department for a while, plus other various jobs that were needed to be done. Utilities always, like I said, still 32 years. I've always been interested. Even this day when I cruise around, I see crews, I talk, ask them questions, what's going on, I want to know what's going on with the industry. The city, in order to grow properly, does have to have infrastructure that's reliable and sound. And as I stated before, that is what I'm interested in. It has improved, contrary to what people believe. However, it hasn't got to the point where we can honestly say it's 100% reliable, or 90% maybe. Thus, we need to look at all aspects, and I think I have a unique insight because, like I said, with my role as safety director, when I spent 10 years, I did spend a lot of time in the field talking to different crews about their jobs. So I'm not a professional in water, wastewater, et cetera, but I do have a very good understanding, of what it entails and what they lack and what they need, as well as the other departments. I'm just interested. I mean, bottom line is, I just want to serve.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions?
You just asked my question, so.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Williams,
Yes, sir.
what specifically do you want to try to achieve if you were selected to serve on this board?
Well, honestly, I would have to, if I was appointed to the board, I would have to go back and look at policy and procedures for utilities, see if what's changed. I knew what it was a few years ago, but things have changed. I'm sure may have changed, so I'd have to review that and get in my head what the departments are expecting, what they need. That's the way I look at things. And then I approach it from the fact of, like City Manager Fuentes said, the form for utilities is utility board. And, we can hopefully see if we can come up with recommendations to settle some of the unrest that may be experienced in the city now. And I feel one of my benefits, I'm very good at going, and I believe I can do it if you're a member of the Public Utility Board, is talking to utilities. I don't know. But I'm very good at talking to the employees and getting to an understanding of insights. And I think that's beneficial for the board as well as the city. I mean.
Commissioner Bacher? Okay. So you did kind of in the public comment talk about rate increases. How do you feel about rate increases where, if we're applying for money from the Water Trust Board, if we're applying for a loan or a grant loan from the Water Trust Board and they say, yeah, you're going to have to be able to be self-sufficient enough to turn a profit in that enterprise fund and make that profit to pay back the loan and grant. So how do you feel, even though you don't live in T or C, we're taking care every time you drink our water and flush the toilets and turn on your energy and stuff like that. So how do you feel about taxing yourself for an increase?
Well, I was one of those, many years ago, when I first started, I was one of the ones that complained about everything. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I really didn't know. And as my tenure with the city became longer and longer, I started to understand certain things. I understand that the city, in order to receive certain grants, loans, whatever it may be, has to justify it by basically stating, look, we've done everything we can possibly do to meet our obligation. and at least what, from what I understand, a lot of issuing authorities look for. What have you done for yourselves before you ask me or us for money? And if it means a rate increase for a certain utility, well, unfortunately, that's the way it is. I'm one of the few, hopefully there's more, that I don't have a problem with it, as long as I see action coming from the rate, if you know what I mean, i.e. water lines, because some of that money does have to go in for infrastructure, as well as paying loans and grants or whatever it may be. So I personally don't have a problem. I always, what has it been, 25 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, we had a utility director that, and I believe this is what the city should do. He wanted to institute a 0.5% increase every year for utilities. The public can absorb it. They don't notice that. They notice the 5, 10, 20%. And I always thought that was a great idea. But unfortunately, at that time, they got shot down. So I really don't have a problem with the city instituting some type of, every year, because of our obligations to meet this, in order for us to get the monies and what we need, equipment and all that good stuff, materials, to do what the public wants. Well, we have to show our obligation and meet our obligation. And unfortunately, if it means raising, a rate by a penny or 2 or 5, we're going to have to do it. It's between a rock and a hard spot. Public doesn't want it, but the issuing authorities say do it. And you guys are in the middle of it. So you have to make a decision, do it or not. And I'm one of the few that do it. Because I have confidence that in the long run, things will get better. I'm a firm believer you have to pay upfront costs in order to reap the benefit. And the longer this city keeps putting off what we have to do with utilities, it's not getting cheaper. It's getting more expensive. And I wish people would understand that. It's not getting cheaper. It's getting more expensive. And the more we put it off, the longer you put it off, well, instead of spending $10 million to get it fixed, you're going to spend 15 or 20. And that's the way I look at stuff. I'm always been willing, when I was at the airport, give me $500,000, I'll get the airport squared away. That's the upfront money you need to get to where you need to get it to where it benefits. Same thing with the city infrastructure. You have to have the money to do the job, do it right. Unfortunately, when I first started electric, we had a saying, we were always temporary, permanently fixing things. Temporary fix that lasted 20 years because of that. And unfortunately, sometimes it has to be done now, especially with, I heard the water lines. Unfortunately, to get the money, the city has, and like I said, this isn't a 7 to 10 year thing. This has been 20, 30 years. When I started in '82, we had this problem. So it's nothing, I personally take a front when I hear people talk about how this problem started in 10 years and then all of a sudden employees are this and that. No, employees that we have, I'm getting off subject, I'm sorry. I don't want to politic there. But I feel that I don't have a problem as long as it's thought out. And the PR, I think the PR is what the city really needs, if anything like that goes. Not just a matter of, well, guys, we're going to do it. Any comments? No, the PR has to be out there. I mean, to get, and I honestly believe 0.5%, whatever it is, every year on utilities doesn't hurt. It's absorbable. It's pennies. But when you start talking, like I said, well, unfortunately, we got to do 15%. You're going to catch it. And I don't blame them. I don't know if I answered your question. I started to babble a little bit there, but check my jaws a little bit.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ron back in. Asked him if he wanted to bring Ron back in.
Thank you.
If I may address the commission one more thing, I had something to say.
Ron, I appreciate that, but then we're going to have to give Mr. Williams extra time, and then...
It's a piece of information you don't know about.
Mayor Green, actually, for reasons I want to discuss later on, I think actually it would be appropriate to allow Mr. McCourt to say something, if Mr. Williams wants to follow up, and he should have that right also.
Okay.
And I'll explain a little later on. But go ahead.
Okay, all right, sure.
We had a member on the board, and he did not show up 3 meetings in a row with no excuse, and he was asked to resign. We now have an issue with another member, a current member, who showed up did not show up for 3 meetings in a row. And I brought it up at our board, and our chairperson chose to neglect it and didn't take on any conversation over it. Just an FYI, and if you need to know who that was, I will share that with you.
And the name is?
Gil.
Okay, thank you. Ed, okay. The only thing I would say is unfortunately that Chairman Zaghetti is not here. I am quite sure what we are hearing from Ron is 100% truth, but also I don't know if Gil Avalar contacted the chair and said, my dog died, I can't come to the meeting, I feel sick. I don't know. I don't know the backstory, so I'm just going to accept that as what you told us and just leave it there and not make a further comment on it without any way to substantiate it and find the backstory to it. So we have presently George Zaghetti is up, Jeff Dornbush is up, Gil Avalar is up, Ron Pecoric is up, and we have a new hat in the ring, Ed Williams. So we have 5 people, which we needed all 5 of them, for 4 slots. Someone like to make a motion?
Mayor Green, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to move that we approve George Zaghetti, Jeff Dornbush, Ron Pecoric, and Ed Williams as members of the POB. Henceforth.
I have a motion by Commissioner Heschler. Need a second.
I second that
I have
motion.
a second by Mayor Pro Tem Whitehead. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you very much, and thank you for volunteering to serve, and thank you for continuing to volunteer to serve. We appreciate it. And I'm quite sure, Madam Clerk, that we will send Mr. Avalar a letter of thanks and stuff. And Ron, it says something about your character that of the 4 people who are up of the regular board right now, you're the only one that showed up. To me, that kind of says, I really think I have something to bring to the table, and let's just leave it at that. So, and Ed, thank you very much. Moving on, next item is report city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioners, just some quick items to report. I will be attending the city managers meeting later this week, this afternoon, and I'll be back Friday. I do want to ask the commissioners their scheduled availability for a final budget workshop. We are scheduled to adopt the final budget in the next meeting. I believe we moved the meeting. We're going to be discussing that. So if commissioners may look at their calendars and see if the week of the 16th, if maybe whether it's the 17th or 18th, or we can also schedule it like maybe an hour before. We can do the budget workshop prior to the regular meeting, and we can advertise it where the regular meeting will follow after the budget meeting. Because even though the final, we're just going to highlight some of the major changes from the preliminary budget. So those, that we can do that as well if that's the wish of the commissioners. We'll have a standalone budget meeting. So that's a question to the board.
Does anything work better for, of course, my concern, Manager Fuentes, is if we put it on the 24th, now we're pushing that workshop, which we're going to, because of the fundraiser for the dog park, we would really probably have to start maybe around 3 o'clock and leave 1 hour and then go from 4. Do we have any sense of an idea, Madam Clerk or Manager Fuentes?
Mr. Mayor, the commission chambers is already reserved for some DOT meetings that day, 9 to 12 and 2 to 4. So if we move the commission meeting to 4 p.m., it would be hard to put anything before that.
Right.
Or how about Thursday or Friday?
Thursday of that week? No, you mean of next week?
Yes.
Okay,
I'm out of town Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, so.
Oh, okay, so-
Of that week, yeah.
So Tuesday would work.
So,
how does Tuesday the 17th,
We have our, no?
do we have anything on, Commissioner Baca?
yeah, that would work for me,
All right,
as long as it's not,
is that, do you have any commitments?
Tuesday in the afternoon?
Tuesday,
What time can we
We
do?
have a
Like,
public arts board at 4 PM on Tuesday.
so can we start at maybe at 5:30?
would that work? Sure.
And that'll give staff all day Monday and all day Tuesday to
To
put
prepare.
everything together.
Mayor Pro Tem, does that work for you at
That'll
5:30
work.
on Tuesday?
yeah,
5:30, okay, Commissioner Baca?
Tuesday, the 17th at 5:30?
Yes, sir.
That'll work.
So it will be 5:30 here at the Commission Chambers to go over the budget.
Budget, yes.
So is that, we will publish that, but will the public have is that just for the commission, Manager Fuentes, or is that for the public to chime in and say, gee, you should take the $20 from here and stick it over there?
No, that's just for the city commission. This is a budget workshop to kind of go over some of the final numbers from June 30th.
Right.
That we close the fiscal year. And any final tweaks, we'll be meeting with the department heads. So we'll be tweaking those, just the final budget, make sure all the balances,
Okay,
we don't have any negative balances, and we'll just highlight the major changes.
okay,
And then, obviously, we will try to include some of the projects that we've already discussed and some of the projects in our plan that we came up with. And then it will be voted on at the regular meeting.
okay.
So
So,
it'll be an opportunity to discuss it with the commission.
So, Renee, I can do this, or maybe, to make it official, it should probably come from your office or Manager Fuentes' office. If we could email Commissioner Clark, and she, ask her if she'd like to attend telephonically. She might have some statements that she'd like to make about the budget, if at all possible. Okay.
And just real quick, Mayor, so just again, I want to commend some of our staff in the water and wastewater department. They really come together. They did work last weekend and to fix some of our water leaks. We are continuing to receive reports of leaks coming in, so they're putting them on the list. But rest assured, now next week, we're going to be fully staffed. That was quite a challenge, trying to find people and recruit people. But it looks like we're going to be fully staffed, and they're going to be continuing to work on these leaks until we get all of them. So thank you for the public, for their patience, and the commissioners, and again, just recognize staff for their work. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Rubin?
I have no report, thank you.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
I have no report.
Commissioner Heschler?
Just a short report. I wanted to give a shout out to one of our sub-recipient grant receivers, and that's the Friends of Elton View State Park for the fireworks display they did last week. I actually attended the display, sat in the middle of the crowds. It was wonderful, and I think it was the best fireworks display in New Mexico. Where else can you go where you have a fireworks display like that, and then it's the reflection over the water, and you see hundreds of boats in the water to boot. It was a wonderful event. Whoever your contractor was, whatever changes they made this year, it was a great change. My wife remarked that she thought there were 3 finales in this thing, because every time we saw a bunch of them go up at once, we thought, okay, well, that's pretty good, and then it would just keep on going. So, wonderful job, and I look forward to next year's.
Excellent. I'm glad we found a few dollars in our budget to help
Yes.
fund them. Commissioner Baca?
I do not have anything.
Okay, and I just have a congratulations and a well wishes for our own city clerk treasurer, Renee Canton, who is now taking over the gavel as president of our Rotary here. So I wish you well for the next year, and I know Rotary will continue to do all good things for our community and our students and all of our citizens. So I wish you the best of luck. And that's the end of my report. There is no executive session, so the next scheduled meeting is going to be on July 24th. We determined that 4 o'clock is going to be the date. Commissioner Heschler, is that what? Commissioner Baca, that what? Manager Fuentes? Okay, so the next meeting will be 4 o'clock on July 24th, and we will notify Commissioner Clark on that as well. And then the budget workshop will be at 5:30 on July 17th in these chambers. I'll take a...
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
God, the first time in history,
Commissioner Buckley,
10-10.
you had to ruin the fun, you had to second this, we could have been here for a while.